Yo, what's up, everybody? It is that time. It's 11 a.m. on Saturday. That means it is time for Murals in the Market Live. What's going on? I am your host, Jason. They call me the Jason of all trades on Instagram. Please add me. Every Saturday at 11 a.m. we go live from Optimal over on Division Street in Eastern Market. I usually say it's a beautiful day. I mean, I'm going to be positive and say it's a beautiful day, even though it's cold as shit outside. The sun is still shining through the clouds, man. It's still touching my face, so I can't complain about a thing. You know what I mean? I'm in this beautiful place right here. Come by, check us out, man. They are open. So I am right in the front window. It's like I'm on the Today Show or something. You know what I mean? You can actually walk by and like watch me go live. So come by, hang out with me, see what's up. It is wild out here in these streets, man. But again, we had to take a week off last week. Rest in peace to Ricky Powell, a good friend of the family. Sadly passed away the week we were supposed to go live. So it was kind of a crazy week to really process that. So we took it off to just sort of, once again, process and show our love for Ricky, man. So rest in peace, Ricky Powell. But we are back. He would want us to keep working, and we are back to work right now. So this week's guest, man, we're going to bring it back to the hometown. My dude, man, I met Rashaun years ago when we both were playing the corporate life. When I used to actually work at a TV station as opposed to being on the news there or being on air. I used to direct the news at a local TV station, and Rashaun used to shoot photos for a local paper. So, and I don't want to say a local paper like it's tiny. He was running it. So we're going to get into that. Ladies and gentlemen, let me go ahead and pull him in. This week's guest is Rashaun Rucker. Man, my dude. And I know he's crazy. He just got off another phone call, then talked to me, and now he's here live. So, what's up, my dude?
What's good, my brother? Can you hear me fine?
Absolutely, man.
All
And it's
right.
good to see you. It's been a minute, my man.
I know, man.
How you doing?
Bro, no complaints, other than, staying in the crib and being safe like the rest of the world with the pandemic. Just working as much as I can in the crib.
Yes, man. And on top of this pandemic, like I was saying earlier, it feels like the coldest day in Michigan today, man. You in the crib chilling. I had to leave
Yeah.
to come out, man. As soon as I got this philosophy that every day I like to look outside and take a breath of fresh air when I let my dog out, and I like to process the air and the earth. Today I was like, no, dude, this is crazy, man. Like I opened the door, I was like, okay, yeah, it's alive, but we're here, so I can't complain, man. So you are busy, man. But let's go back because everybody likes to start at the beginning, and
Yeah.
I think your story is an amazing story because I call it you were like a Clark Kent Superman at one time because when I met you, man, you were definitely not a full-time artist. You were working for, was it the news or the Free Press at the time?
The Free Press, when we first met, I was a staff photographer there and then later became a deputy director of photo and video there.
So you were
So,
definitely living a different life. Talk about that, man, because you were taking photos of some serious stuff.
yeah, it's funny because I kind of had a flashback in these recent weeks when former Mayor Kwame Kilpatrick was pardoned because I had to photograph him almost every day in court during the trial. So it kind of
Right?
flashed back to me like, just seeing it, and I remember the big section that we did the day he was found guilty and the headline was "I lied," and there was a picture of him frowning, and it was my picture. And so some things
Wow.
kind of like hit me back and forth, in my mind, like when they had the insurrection at the Capitol, the first thing that came to my mind was like, yo, I'm so glad I don't work at a newspaper anymore.
Right.
Because those are things
Right.
that would like, it already affects your life, but it would affect you in a real way. Like, I photographed Obama's inauguration, so it's like you would be interjected in these things. And
Yep.
so a lot of times I'm looking at stuff and I'm like, man, I'm so glad that like I don't have that type of impact, on my
Right.
life anymore. But also like as far as, I tell people all the time, as far as my artist practice, I think working in journalism for 20 years was like the greatest thing that ever happened to me because I told somebody it's like you get a PhD in humanity. You learn how to deal with people from
Mm-hmm.
all walks of life. And that was the cool thing. I mean, you were a news producer. It was like, in a span of a week, I might do a story on the homeless. I might be in somebody's house that's like a gazillionaire. Then you might be at a homicide scene. Then you might be shooting a Lions game. So it was like, that's what was cool about it. It was like Christmas. Every day was a different present. And so you just didn't know. And in the end, it was like, 'cause somebody was like, oh man, you really friendly. You don't mind reaching out to people. I'm like, well, you work in the journalism. It's like, you have to talk to people
Mm-hmm.
and you have to learn how you have to have the ability to accept no. I was like, you know how many people I would ask every day, can I take your picture? And they would say no. And I
Right,
would I
right.
would be like, bro, I appreciate it and move to the next person. But it was like you get used to that. And it was like it became, nothing for me to ask. Say for instance, I'm down at River Days. Man, I might have to ask 40 people that before I get the 10 pictures I need for the paper.
Right, right.
And so you just get used to talking to strangers. You get used to hearing no, and it also gave you this sense of perseverance where it's like you had to keep pushing through, no matter what. It's like you had to produce a news show no matter what happened.
Mm-hmm.
If
Mm-hmm.
some and stories that people don't understand, stories fail every day, whether it's TV or the papers. Like you got this big plan coming, and it might drop down and completely fail like an hour before.
Right,
And
right,
it's like
right.
you got to figure out how to, it gives you like this great training in how to manage chaos.
No, man, that is something, man. Like I never, it's true, man. You really get to, and if you're like a student of learning, you're not that person.
Yes.
Like I used to work with people who used to hate talking to people, but I'm that cat who's like, I love every cross section of people, man. The other day I walked
Yes.
outside and this guy was walking down the street. He had his mask on upside down, halfway, and I like for a second I was mad. But then I really put it in perspective that that's just another person in America, man, that like is living a different life than we are. And so
Yeah.
if it hadn't have been a pandemic at that moment, I might have hugged him. Like it was really one of those, and it was a Detroit cat. So I really was like, yo, I really should hug him. So I feel what you're saying, man. Like you really were a student of learning people.
Bro, when I first started my photojournalism career before I even moved to Detroit, because I worked a few years, papers down south in different places, one of my first big things was I covered a skinhead rally. Bro, like, what am I doing there?
What? They what? They for real? They first of all, they for real sent you to that? For
Bro, it
real?
was in Kokomo, Indiana.
Wow.
And so that's why I
And
was
they
saying you get like this crazy like education about people. And it was funny because the people there were trying to convince me that they weren't racist, and I'm like, okay. And I mean, I literally think about it sometimes. I remember it was me and a reporter sitting on a deck, and it was like 12 skinheads around us, and they was like really trying to educate us about their philosophy. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, bro, what the hell are you doing here? Like, this is the weirdest space in the world you could be right now.
Oh,
But
I tell
sometimes you
you,
would you would be in those spaces as a journalist. I remember going on a hunting trip with a dude, and it's like the Free Press sent me out to do a story about hunters, and it's like something dawned on me. I'm like, bro, I'm up in Howell in the woods with like three dudes with guns. Like I don't know these dudes.
right?
Like, you just find yourself in really like weird predicaments, and you like always got to be thinking. You always got to be like figuring out like what's the next move, like how you deal with situation to situation to situation.
Right.
And sometimes you just never forget stuff. Like first time I saw somebody who died, it was like, wow, like I'm taking a picture of this. Like I'm here looking at something I really probably shouldn't see and nobody else ever has to see.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Mm-hmm.
just, like that world just prepares you for like all kinds of stuff. And it,
Nah,
it's
trust
just
me.
like, yeah, so it's like when I think about it now, I'm like, man, I'm so glad I did that because it helped me as an artist, like on a level of storytelling that I probably never could have got to just in my own, life.
Hmm. I was gonna ask you, you beat me to the punch, man. I was gonna say, did that, did the visuals and the life that you led in that previous life play into that? But clearly they did.
Yeah, and people, when I became an editor, like the last 7 years, I worked at the Free Press for 16 years, and people were like, "Oh, do you miss the streets? Do you miss this?" And it was like, but then becoming an editor gave me a different type of visual because then I started looking at everybody else's visuals all day long. And so then
Okay.
when I would go back in the street and have to shoot again, I had a whole different mindset about how to look at something. Because it's like all I'm doing is looking at images all day when I'm an editor. So it's like the next time I'm at the county fair, I was like, hell, I remember how this dude in Canada shot the fair because I
Right.
saw it on the wire. And so it's like your
Right.
mind is like now become this weird media library of visuals. And so when you see something, you like, I got 12 different ways to approach this. You
Right.
know, it's
Right.
almost like a basketball player or something. It's like almost like or Michael Jordan is somebody who will study somebody else's moves, and they're like, well, I know dude gonna go to the left because this is what he always does in this situation. So you get this strange databases of how to shoot things.
Hmm.
And so like there was nothing they could send me to that I didn't know like 20 different ways how to photograph it. And you always
Right.
looking for different angles, you know, different reflections, different this, different that, you know, like, and I would challenge myself because when you're in a market like we are, or you're in a market, you know, when you're working at anywhere as a journalist, it's like, say for instance, Dream Cruise. Dream Cruise happens every year. How do you make that
Hmm.
different?
Hmm.
So you got to
Hmm.
approach that like, how do I make that different? And the same thing happens when I start doing art. It's like, how can I make this work about something that everybody has seen different? So like that training as a journalist, I think really took me to a different space where it's like I know how to think about things like 30,000 different ways. Because the greatest thing you have to do as a journalist is you have to take something complex and turn it into something that's very universal for people. Because everybody has to understand it.
Right.
You know,
Man.
everybody from every different walk of life is going to read the paper. So it's like, how do you take something like the coronavirus and get it and melt it down to like the right type of thing that everybody can digest? And that was always our thing. Like my boss used to say, like, we got to figure out the right pattern, like the right words. Like, what's
Hmm.
the word that's this? And it's funny talking to Ryan Hooper a little while ago. He said something. I was like, it's totally true. He was like, the more specific you make things, the more universal they become, which is really true. Like the deeper you dig down into a place, it really gets more universal because everybody has to deal with those situations.
Hmm. Hmm. And I
So it
say
was
that
just,
all the
yeah,
time. I say that all the time, and I was just literally talking to my dude about that, and that's on all levels. I was saying if really people understood, really, what's going on in the world, that everybody's anger, we're all mad about the same stuff. We're just going about how we put it out there differently.
yeah,
But everybody's mad about being poor. Nobody wakes up and says, so yes, man, all this stuff is universal.
bro, it's the same thing. Like what you just said, you can break it out in photography terms. Like we're all mad about what's going on, but this dude is looking at it through a wide angle lens. I'm looking through it through a telescopic where I'm like very zeroed in on just my situation. But somebody else might have this wide angle lens and they're thinking about pandemic, coronavirus. But if you got this, you know, this 200 millimeter on, you're like, I'm dealing like specifically with somebody in my family that got COVID or somebody that's sick. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it's like, so it's that whole thing is just like how each of us sees the same thing. You know, and that's a lot of it. That's just like communication, man. Like you, I mean, it's weird. Like I'm sure you had like a conversation with somebody where you're agreeing, but it's like you're weirdly not agreeing because you're seeing the same thing and agree on the same thing, but in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you got to be like, look, we're saying the same thing.
Right,
like,
right,
like, like,
right.
like we're saying the same thing. And so that's kind of how, you have to look at things, and this is, everybody's dealing with the same stuff, man.
Yep,
You
yep.
know,
So, what was the wildest? I gotta ask. What was so you worked in media. So, what was like the wildest thing you experienced during that? Like when I worked at the station, we went through the blackout. In
yeah,
2003, we went through war. I mean, there was literally like a deadline. They were like, it's Wednesday, we're going to war type shit. So, like, what was your experience that really? Oh, and we had the shooting at the station. I don't know if you were at the
I
paper
was the free,
when
yeah.
we had the shooting in the lobby of the station that I worked at. So like that day really like is obviously burned in my memory of something that I will never forget. Experience alive, like shooting in my station. Like, what is there something that you remember?
Well, I think like maybe the two things that kind of stick out to me, I would say like the three things that stick out to me the most was one, the Kwame Kilpatrick trial.
Mm-hmm.
Two, I was covering the fireworks the night they had the mass shooting. You remember like
Wow.
12 people got shot in
Yeah.
Hart Plaza? So just being
Yeah.
out in them spaces doing that type of stuff.
Hmm.
And then three, I think it's like Obama's first inauguration, and I covered it. And that was
Hmm.
the first time I worked like, bro, I worked a legit 24-hour shift.
Right.
Because
Right.
we went from inauguration to the parade, went back, edited everything, and then went to the actual first dance. And I remember this was like this kind of like weird, like, not that I didn't know it was true, but this was like one of those times too when I had one of those weird like racism in America things. So I'm shooting the first dance with like President Obama and First Lady Michelle, and it's like it's over with. We've edited the work from where we're at, from the ballroom, and it's like 2 in the morning, bro. Trying to get back to my hotel, I go to hail a cab. No one would stop and pick me up, bro. I had a tux on, black tie, and I was like, "Yo, I can't even get a taxi in a tux. I'm
I just
cummerbund. Look,
left.
I'm cummerbund up in everything, bro, and I
And
can't get a taxi."
I just left being with the President of the United States, man, in less
Bro,
than
that in my mind, I was like, yo, what kind of shit is this? And it's like, some dude was like, man, I was like, how am I gonna get back to the hotel? It's like 10 miles away, and it's like 2 in the morning. And some dude was like, yo, go up to the Hilton. They probably got like, some limos or something like that. You know how I got back? There was a dude in a Lincoln Town car sitting in there. And I was like, bro, I got $60 in cash in my pocket. You can have all of it if you take me 10 miles up the street. And that was how I got. And I was
wow.
like, bro, and somebody was like, you don't need to touch. You were blessed with 2 feet. I'm like, I couldn't walk. I had all the equipment.
Right.
I had
Right.
like 50 pounds of equipment. And I'm like, bro, like nobody will like give me a time. The crazy part is I'm watching them stop for other people.
Right. Right.
That's what was
Now that's
tripping me
DC.
out.
Yeah, right? That's
But
DC though.
that's what I always try to tell people when they talk about blah blah blah. And I always tell my boss, I'm like, bro, my skin color greets you long before my attire and long
Hmm.
before whatever job I got.
Yeah. Wow, dude. And that's still really that's
Yeah,
prevalent to this day, man. You know
bro.
what
When
I
I
mean?
walk out
Like
that
that
door,
story is still
nobody.
relevant now.
When I walk out that door, no one cares. I always tell her all the time, nobody cares that I'm a three-time Emmy-winning photographer for the Free Press and the deputy director. When I walk out that store, I'm just a black dude. When I walk out that door, the news, nobody know who I. They don't see that.
Right.
And I would tell people, I said, that's what people don't understand. It's like you could have achieved everything. Like, bro, that meet people long before, you know, it meet people long before like any of the stuff you've like achieved.
Hmm.
I
Yep.
said the only
Yep.
thing that tell people that I said the only thing that does is when you tell people that, that gives them a determination of how much respect they're willing to give you. That's why people always love to ask you what you do.
Right.
Sometimes when they say what do you do, I'm like, about what?
Right.
like
Right.
like bro, don't ask me what I do. It's like you doing that to like assert how much respect you about to give me.
Right. Exactly. Exactly, man. I learned that a long time working at the TV station. One of the great anchor man, Emery King, told me, man, something similar to that, man. He was a great teacher. So now, man, you're working for the news, and media is changing, the world is changing, and then so you decide. How did you decide to go? You're a full time artist. You know what I'm saying? So did
Yeah,
the
like I
paper
was
decide that? Did the world
no,
decide that, or did
no,
you
like
decide
I
that?
was sitting in the newsroom and they were gonna have buyouts and I would have survived the buyout. I mean I had survived like 5 rounds of them. And I knew I was gonna survive and they were like, yo, we're gonna offer buyouts to anybody with more than 15 years. And at the time my wife had just got a job as a software developer and I was like, bro, if I got any chance to go, this is it. Cause she just secured a nice gig, so I can kind of like she had just finished school, got a nice gig, so I was like I can kind of try to do my thing with art at this point. And so I took the buyout. And then I think maybe like it was a blessing, dude, because I took the buyout. My granddad got sick. He was in hospice, so I was able to spend the last 3 months with him, like every day. And if I was working, I wouldn't have been able to do that. And so it's
Hmm.
like I got to know my grandfather even on a deeper level. I mean, we already knew it, but it's like literally talking all day long for like months on end. And so I spent that time with him, and I wouldn't have had that time. And then he passed away, and then I won the Kresge Fellowship maybe like 2 or 3 months later. So I was kind of thinking, it's all set up. It's like in this divine order, like that, it's just been, I made the right decision. And so every time I like kind of doubt that, something will come along to like, like the butterfly effect. Someone will come along and tap me on my shoulder and say, "You doing it? You doing the right thing? You doing what you need to be doing." And it's funny because I had one of those grandfathers who, he fought in the Korean War as a medic. Worked all his life. He was like a super duper loving guy, but he was the guy that never said "I love you," but he always showed you through the actions. And I remember like right before he passed, he was like, "Man, you really taking care of your granddad." And that was like his way of telling me like, "Bro, I love you. I love that you doing this. Like, I love that you taking care of me." And bro, I was getting like 2 pieces from KFC every day for him and like bringing him to the hospital 'cause that was the only thing he would eat. And the doctor was like, "Bro, I don't care what he eat, as long as he eat." So them last months, bro, my granddad was eating honey buns and zebra cakes and eating all the stuff that he wanted to eat. And I was like really blessed to like help dude go out on his own terms.
Right.
Because he was 86. He had got to the point where he was like, "I'm not taking no more medicine." So dude was just like, "I'm tired." That's what he told me. He's like, "I'm tired, bro." And I was like, "Yo, I'm just gonna do my best to like help you see it out the way you want to see it." And so we were just sitting there and kick it and, just talk about life, man, and just, he would always impart, some wisdom on me. And one of the things he would tell me, him and my grandmother, which has stuck with me to this day, that old thing about, the grass is always greener. And they would always say the grass is always greener, but you got to mow that yard too. So they would always make me think of that my granddad would always say, like, "Bro, you get over there, it's some dry spots over there, some grubs, and there's some work to be done, even though it looks smooth. It ain't always like that." So, I think about those type of things all the time. And it was cool, man. It was cool to just, while he transitioned to his final place, I was transitioning to my next phase. So it was awesome, man. It was like a
And I'm
perfect
sure,
time for me to dip off and start, Ruck 2.0.
I'm sure you had, people over the years were telling you you should be doing this though, so it wasn't one of those, it was a leap of faith, but it wasn't like a crazy
Yeah,
leap of faith. You
yeah.
knew,
People would
you
always
know,
be like, "Yo, dude, why ain't you just creating? You're not made to supervise people. You're made to create."
Mhm.
And so that was kind of one of those things where it's akin to like you got to do it on your own time. I had to wait till I felt like it was right. And it's interesting because murals in the market was kind of that first step. In 2018 when I painted the mural, I took 2 weeks off work to do it. And so when I did that, I was kind of like, "Yo, this could really be my life." Like spending that, those 10 days painting a mural in Detroit kind of like gave me this vision where I'm like, this, if I keep working like I'm working, like this could literally be my life where I'm doing this type of work full time and not sitting in meetings and not, doing whatever else. It was like I loved that time that I spent there, but I also knew I had like a real yearning, inside of me to just be like creating constantly. And I think what helped me get through those years is like I was still making art. I was a photojournalist. I was still
Yeah.
creating. So I wasn't completely out of that world. Like
Right,
if I would
right.
have been doing like strictly corporate stuff, I probably would have went crazy long before. But I was still making work. And then even as an editor, I'm still producing packages and still, the last thing I edited was Aretha Franklin's funeral. So like I really I put my foot all in there. I tried to do like everything I could to make that just outstanding. We did like 3 special sections, double trucks, and it's like when, the day after she died and I saw the free press in the rack and I was like, "Yo, that what you're looking at is completely from me and a designer."
Right, right. So, do you ever feel like a pressure, when you started working on that? Did you say, you know what? Did you just approach it as from an artist? You say, I'm gonna just do what I do, or did you say, this is the queen of Detroit, man, and I need to make sure that it
Bro,
goes right?
I felt like it was always that type of pressure because I felt like, even though my name wasn't on it when I was the editor, my voice was behind it, and my my visual expertise. And so it was one of those things where it's like when I would walk downtown or go in a gas station in the hood and see somebody buy a free press, and I'm like, my name isn't in it, but the design and the visual aspects of that paper, my name is all over it. Like what they're looking at is something I helped develop in the middle of the night with designers and a
Mhm.
few other people. But yeah, like I remember like Aretha Franklin's passing was like one of those things. I'm like, yo, I got to deliver for the city. I got to deliver for the queen. Same thing with the Flint water crisis. I was like, yo, this is serious. I got to like make people understand the impact of what's going on in Flint. So you always have those like pressures. And you
Every
should feel
event
that
that you're
way.
talking about, man, every event you're talking about is epic, man. Like, it is wild. I can't even imagine what your file cabinet in your mind is like of memories, and you know what I mean? Because, like I said, we talked about the things that are like this, but then the Flint water crisis, man. Like, how do you tell that story the way that people really need to understand that people are being poisoned?
Bro, I mean, like that, the picture that was on the cover of Time magazine of a little boy in Flint, that was one of the photos that I edited. That was on the cover of Time. When I won a national Emmy, I won it for my work on pit bull culture in Detroit. So I spent a whole year with animal cruelty cops, kicking in dog fighting doors, wearing, I wore a bulletproof vest every day when I was doing that story. And like, it was just
So,
crazy.
did you pick that story, or
I
did
picked that
it?
story. That was my story, bro. And the funny thing was because I had two pit bulls at the time. We had always had them, and I never had issues with them. So I kind of wanted to come from both angles. That's why the headline became Companions or Killers. Like, so
Right.
we talked to breeders, lovers, people who had been attacked, people who were dog fighting, the whole nine. And it struck me one day because I was like sitting in my desk, bro, and I'm like, something came on the TV news, and it was something like, in the city of Detroit, we euthanized 3,000 some odd pit bulls last year. And I was like, holy shit, 3,200 in a city? You're not talking about like nationally, you're talking about one breed
Right.
of dog in a city. And I just started working on the budget, and I pitched it to my boss, and he was like, yo, work up a real budget, give me the budget, and then I'll let you start working on it. So over the course of the year, we just work. And the funny part was when we finally finished it, the publisher at that time was like, I don't know, man. This is like, I don't know if it's got enough interest in it. Because they're always looking for a news peg. You know how that
Right.
goes. It's
Yeah.
always, so
Oh, yeah.
it was done for like 3 months, man. We was just kind of chilling, doing nothing. And then, bro, you would never believe what happened. Mike Vick got arrested for dog fighting.
Oh,
They was like, bro, where's that package at? And then
right.
they started rolling it out. So like that might have never been seen, man, if like Michael Vick wouldn't have gotten in trouble. Like
Right.
truth, that
Right.
that probably would have never ever saw the light of day, maybe. And they ended up winning a national Emmy for new approaches in a regional documentary.
Amazing.
So
Amazing. So
it
you
just,
got you got Emmys for that? What else
yeah,
you got Emmys for?
that won a national Emmy and a regional Emmy. Then we worked on a car project that won a regional Emmy, and the other project I want to say was the Detroit bankruptcy. Dude, that was like now that impacted me hugely, bro. That was like a 3 year
Everybody, right?
journey or something, like news
Right.
wise.
Right.
That was like nuts, man. Like trying to tell it from the granular level of people who living in the city. Because I remember, bro, like it got into the whole art world with the collection at the DIA. And
Right.
I remember, like at the time, I was doing my Red Bull residency because I was still working at the Free Press full time when I was doing Red Bull House of Art residency. And my type man Tylon Sawyer was with me, and we were talking to a group of people, other artists, and these other artists were like, "Yo, I don't see how they could ever sell the artwork in the DIA. They don't play." And me and Tylon are like the only two black people in this conversation. And I'm like, "Yo, I kind of like can see it because my grandparents were city workers and they were the ones getting their checks cut because they didn't have enough money during the bankruptcy. So I think my grandparents lost like 20% of their pension check. And I remember Tylon made this statement, bro. I never forgot it. He was like, he was like, I'm educated enough and artsy enough to understand your point. But he was like, I'm also Detroit enough not to give a damn about any of that artwork in there and sell it and let people eat.
Right.
So it's
Wow.
like,
Thailand,
like
another mural artist. Thailand,
yeah, so
yes,
it's
man.
like, you know, you got it sometimes it's like where you coming from, bro. Like, you know, people, I mean, my grandparents, if it was like, if it was a choice between them eating and them keeping them a Roscoe, I'm like, bro, my grandparents got to eat.
Right. Right.
I'm not thinking about, you know, whatever.
Right.
I
Right.
mean, that's just like when it comes down to a real thing. Like I
Hmm.
appreciate art probably more than any, you know, any next person, but it's like that's just a thing where it's like, man, at some point you got to help people,
Yep. Yep. Yep.
you know,
So
because
when
that's what we're
you
here. That's what we're here to do, bro, is to leave it better than we found it.
absolutely, absolutely. So when you started to go out on your own, did you ever think, is it photography or was first of all was the mural in the market your first mural?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, that's a
My
you know
bro,
that's a story.
my first and only.
What? Y'all hear that?
I've been asked plenty of times to hear. You know, I've been asked plenty of times people, you know, like, yo, you want to paint a mural? I'm like, that was the only one I ever did. That was it. Matter of fact, U
So
of M
that's
asked me to paint a mural recently, and I was like, bro, that's not. I'm not like a really a muralist. I don't consider myself like a Sidney James. Like that was just like my one and only mural that we have in Detroit.
what are you talking about? Are you what are you? So are you trying to tell me you're never gonna do a mural ever
No,
again?
no, no. I'll probably do another
Okay,
one at some point, but just that's right now. That's like the only one, and that mural has so much meaning to me because that's my great uncle,
okay.
and he was a sharecropper in North Carolina, where I'm from. So that's why you see the cotton and the tobacco leaves and all those different things. So it's got all of these different aspects of my family in it. And so what I did for that mural is called John's Life. It's about my great uncle John. Like I said, was a sharecropper, and it's got a picture of the church he attended. And the church is there because I remember him telling me that, you know, back then he said the only place that a black person was respected at was the church.
Mhm.
That's why the church was so important because that's what you could be somebody there. You know, any other place, you know, and that same Uncle John, he actually spent some time in jail for fighting a white man who spit on him.
Man, I see
So,
you once.
and to me, it was like a way to get him, you know, put him in his righteous place. You know, he wasn't royalty, but he was my royalty. So I
Right.
wanted the city to see him. And so you see the tobacco leaves, the corn, the cotton, all the stuff that he was growing and all the stuff that he was, you know, harvesting, being a sharecropper and a farmer later. But then you also see all these African patterns that I put in there, and they were like a lot of the patterns that royalty in Africa would wear. And so that's where that comes from. And I'm pretty much a printmaker and a drawer, a draftsman. So when they asked me to do the murals in the market, I was like, whatever I do, gotta be akin to what I do. So when you look at my mural, it looks just like a large woodcut. It looks just like a
Right.
large piece of printmaking because I
Yep.
kept it in
Yep.
my lane. And I wasn't gonna
Yep.
go out there and be like, yo, I gotta do this. I'm like, no, I want you to see it and know it's me and know it's my style and know it's printmaking. And so when people see that, they always be like, man, it looks just like a woodcut. I'm like, it's supposed to be because it's actually made from the reference of a woodcut. I actually made the woodcut like this small before I did the mural.
So do you still have it?
The woodcut,
Yeah.
yeah, I still got it. It's actually, I think I made three of them, and two went to collectors, and the first edition of it is right now. It's hanging up in Columbia University at the Uptown Triennial.
I
So
love it, man.
that's where it's at right now, man. It's at Columbia University. It's hanging up right beside Sanford Biggers and Daewoo Bay and Derek Forjoy and Jordan Castile is hanging right up in there with them. Whitfield Lovell,
That's
you
where it should
know.
be. That's
So
where
it's
it
where it
should
should
be,
be, you
brother.
know. And that's why, like a lot of times in my printmaking practice, you see my family because it's like it's my way to put them in their rightful places. You know, places they never got to see. You know, right now I have an installation piece in MoCAD I did in collaboration with Mario Moore, and it's based on my grandma's porch, and it's called Big Mom's Porch, a Black Sanctuary, because it was one of those places where you could be unapologetically black without any interference with her porch. And the chair from the porch is in the installation, and there's also a photo album on the table next to the chair, and all the photos are my family sitting on that porch from 1957 till present. And so I thought about it the other day, and I was like, man, I wish my great grandparents who were sharecroppers and my grandma was the help, man. I watched her live that life of that movie in North Carolina. Like, I wish they could see their front porch in a museum right now.
Wow, man. So that installation is currently going right now
Yeah, it
at
just opened last
Mokehead.
week. Yeah,
Okay,
Dual
so
Vision.
yeah,
The show opened last week. It's up
for
to
Black
August, I
History Month.
believe. It's up, yeah, and it's like it's a show like completely based on 40 artists who work in Detroit, or their work is about Detroit, or they're steeped in Detroit creativity. And so 40 different artists paired in teams of two, and it's up till August. It's like the relaunch of the museum.
That's beautiful, brother. Man, like I said, this is you're another one of them cats, man. Every time you spit something, you're like, oh yeah, my art's in Columbia. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Is there something that
Bro,
you
I'm
know,
just a
like
dude from the South who live in Detroit, bro.
I knew you gonna say that because I always say that I'm just a dude from Detroit. But so, of course, I was lucky enough to be featured in an Apple commercial. And that is not the
I remember,
pinnacle, because I've done some crazy stuff after that. Is
bro,
there
you did the
something in your
Levi's
career?
campaign, Van. You've done all kind of stuff,
Hey,
bro.
listen, man, I'm trying money just like everybody else, but I'm saying, like, is there one thing in your life that that one time that you said this was the turning point for me, this was the tipping point?
It wasn't a tipping point, but it's the point that I always think about. We talked about my time at the Free Press, and like, it's not the Emmys or anything like that. Like, I won Michigan Press Photographer of the Year. That's the award they've been giving out for 65 years. I was the first black person to ever win
I
it,
knew you were gonna say it. I knew you were gonna
and
say
the only still to this day. And bro, I cried like a baby. But it wasn't about me. It was about all the black photographers that I
it.
knew who worked in Detroit, who worked in Michigan. I knew them all, and I was like, "This is for them, bro." Like, just to say that it's doable. And it's funny because, like, the banquet was in Lansing. Which for people who don't live here, is like an hour and some change away. And it was on a Saturday, and I came back Sunday, and I went back to work Monday. And I was covering some type of mayoral press conference or something like that. And as you probably know, like, remember the city, they had like two city photographers who were black.
Mm-hmm.
And there was
Mm-hmm.
and so, like, bro, when I saw them, like, the older dude, Quab, he like hugged me, bro. He was like, yo, you did it. And everybody I saw for the next month that was black and working photojournalism was like, yo, you got it for everybody. You did it. And so, like, that is probably not like something that people would stack way up there with other stuff that I've done. But to me, that's the pinnacle, bro.
Right.
It's
Right.
to like, cause to me, it's about representation. It's about, like, letting somebody else see that they can do it. Cause it's like, all I want you to do is, like, dude, take it to another level. Like, be better than me.
And in
You know?
2021, you're still currently in the state of Michigan. I'm just saying this because people trip when I talk about Michigan. I love my state, man. I love Michigan. But, like, let's keep it real. To this date, the only black man to ever win that award in the state of Michigan, man.
Yeah, black
That's
person, period. Male, woman, anything. And there's been people who I know are more talented than me that was shooting before me.
you know what I'm saying? Like, that's, to wrap your mind. But Michigan, there's no black brewers in the Michigan Black Brewers Guild. There's no black owners in the Cannabis Guild. There's no like any of the, like, fields where money is made or arts are done. Generally, we don't have ownership in that, man, especially in the state of Michigan. We need to change that because, like I said, I love this state. As beautiful as it is, it has an ugly side to it sometimes, and that is it.
And that's, I'm trying to live that legacy, man. I'm trying to put that out there. Like, I mean, just this year, I started donating my work to historically black colleges, like, paying the whole freight, bro, the framing and everything. because I'm like, they don't have the money to get acquisitions. They don't have the money that some of these
Right.
people who collect my
To
work
keep up.
pay
Yep.
and
Yep.
keep up. And so like I said, from here on out, 2 or 3 times a year, I'm straight donating. I just donated a piece to Clark Atlanta. They were like so happy to get it. And so
Where
like,
don't you have art, man? Where don't you have art?
I
You
mean,
know,
my thing is, I look at it like this, man. Like I love the DIA, I love some of these other places, but you can't wait on those places to validate you. It's like the artists that I admire, the Jacob Lawrences of the world, the Charles Whites, Elizabeth Catlett's, the Samela Lewis. Is like, bro, those are like phenomenal black artists from like 30, 40 years ago, man. No, nobody was buying, them places was not buying their work. You know who was getting their work? Black colleges, small institutions. And if it's good enough for them, bro, it's good enough for me.
that's
Like
what's
I'm
up,
about
bro.
I'm about getting the work to people who gonna protect the culture and keep it.
That's
It ain't
what's
about
up.
it ain't it ain't about the money, bro. All I want to do is pay my bills and mind my business. I'm not trying
See,
to I'm not trying to be Kahinde or anybody else. I just want to like live, how to do better by the.
that's what's up, man. I lost your mic for a second. Oh, there it goes. All right.
But it's
Yeah, man.
yeah yeah. Somebody tried to call me. It's like somebody always does. But it's you gotta like, man, you gotta do what you gotta do. It's like, another one of my grandma's great quotes all the time. She was like, I mean, she didn't say the F word, but she used to be like, man, don't mess around and be your own damn lampshade.
Hey, man, hell, man. Grandmothers, man. I love grandmothers that have that knowledge, brother. You were lucky to have a good one. What
Yeah,
so what's going on in the future, man? We talked about the past, we talked about, now. What's coming up for you
bro,
next, man?
been like crazy busy lately. So I got a March 26th show back in Detroit or Ferndale at M Contemporary. It's called Up from the Red Clay, and it's a printmaking show about my family and about me growing up in North Carolina. So it's gonna be all printmaking, all lino cuts and monotypes. So I'll show you some of the stuff. Like nobody's really been seeing this
Yeah.
stuff, but like this is my grandfather. I was talking about him and his medic outfit in Korea with his best friend when they was in the military. So you can see me carving it.
Wow. Wow, man. So how long you been working on this piece?
Bro, man, 40, 50, 60 hours being these carvings. And so there's one called The Blood that's about all of the baptismals I used to go to with my grandma when people get baptized in the creeks down south. So you can see before you getting to see
And
them before they print it. So it's like all carving.
how many of these are you planning on having done?
There's going to be 20 printmaking pieces.
Wow.
And there's one behind me. I
Wow.
don't know if you can see it, but it's like a woman waving a church fan with Martin Luther King on it.
Yep. Yeah, man. Oh my.
So
Bro.
I'll show you one more. Like it's called a coronation. So this is my great aunt, and we were pinning money on her for her 90th birthday.
I hope y'all are appreciating this. These are first looks
So you can see the
before he
people
starts the
pinning money.
printmaking.
Yeah, it's my great aunt B.
Um, and did you teach yourself, this art form? I mean, because we got murals, you do photography. Now we're talking this. Did you teach yours? Is it self-taught?
Nah, this is man. I went to North Carolina Central University, man, small black college in North Carolina, Durham, and just basically concentrated on printmaking and drawing when I was there. And a lot of people right now, I think they know me for the bird drawing more so than
Right.
anything. So
Yeah.
I wanted to go back to my roots of printmaking for this show and like, just completely concentrate on that part of my practice that people don't get to see that often.
Right. 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 So you like you said, people know you for the birds, man. Do you find people still hit you up like, hey, could you do a bird, or is that
Yeah,
something?
man. I just, we were on that track about what's going on. So I got this show in Contemporary March 26th. I just finished a show with Namdi Contemporary in Miami, a sold out show. of birds, and man, they hit me up. They still got a waiting list. But some of those went into collections. Mont Walsh Museum purchased a bird. Uh, Wayne State has a piece now in their permanent collection. So we just, we've been moving, and after I do the show March 26th, I got a residency in New York, so I'm gonna be living in Brooklyn for 3 months, and then I'll come back here and start a residency. I'm gonna be the Millen artist in residence at the University of Michigan in the fall, and that's gonna culminate with a solo show at U of M. It's gonna be my final bird show. It's gonna be called Never Free to Rest.
Bro, I can tell you something. You definitely made the right choice when you left the paper, man. Like there's no question about that. Like you are that story of, once again, the leap of faith, bro. But it definitely worked out for you in the right way, man. I mean, if there's any advice you could give, I get a lot of students that actually watch this, or people thinking about going into the field. You can give any advice to anybody who's thinking about getting into art as a full-time,
Yo, I'm gonna
full-time
tell
job?
you, I'm gonna tell you the advice, man, because be like asking me this. So art is one of those things, man. Like a lot of stuff, there's no Rubik to it. I always tell people, like, yo, the secret is work. Do the work, bro. You gotta work. You just had to do the work. Like people always tell me, the one thing we appreciate about you, Ruck, is like you a creator, you a maker. You constantly making. And the thing I let people know is like, bro, we talking in my living room. That's where I work at. I don't have a studio. All this work is done on my couch, on a lap board. You see this thing? It's attached to a piece of foam. I put the foam on my lap and I carve it on my lap. Like I don't have nothing special, bro. I tell people all the time, it's like you looking for these spaces, or you looking for this, so I ain't got the right pencil. I'm like, you the tool. You are the tool. That's a supply. It ain't a tool, it's a supply. That you the tool.
That's
I'm
what's
like,
up.
look at the painters and look at the people from back in the day. They was painting and doing all this stuff with dead palettes. They got 3 colors. They ain't had no fuchsia, neon pinks and greens and shit. They could go to Blick and get. They was doing that with what they had.
Right,
And so it's
right.
like, you can't sit there and always be on that tip where it's like, I don't have this, I don't have that, and I don't, what we say in the community, get it how you live. It's like if you about that work,
Yeah.
you just gonna do it. And at some point, as my grandma always say, because I love my grandma, she always got no sayings. She always used to tell me, God got a way of slow walking you down. So when it's your time, it'll be your time. Time gonna reveal. Bro, we see it every day. You always see somebody saying, we discovered a new American master. You ain't discovered, dude. You just didn't know him.
Right.
He been putting in that work forever.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a
Yep.
professor who was my drawing professor in college. He told me something that stayed with me. And I've been working that way since he told me that. He told me one day, I was telling him I was upset about not getting in some little show in college, and he said, Mr. Rucker, life is too busy to come to you. He was like, you got to go to it. You got to do the
Right.
work.
Yep.
He was like, it
That's
ain't
the
going to
real.
come and knock on the door. And that's why I think a lot of young artists, they like, oh, man, I ain't hit it yet. Bro, you've been doing it for a year or 2 years.
Right.
Bro, it's
Right.
people who've been doing it for 50 years that ain't hit.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I posted something yesterday on IG. It's like, bro, you got to stop putting a value on your art based on the applause. You can't be like, this is dope or this is whack because so and so did. Nah, man, just do you. Make your truth, make your art, and the rest gonna happen by itself. Somebody put in a little comments, too busy to hate. You exactly right. I'm too busy to hate. I'm too busy trying to make. Because
Right.
what you see in the gallery is dope and is this or whatever, but that's not my joy. I tell the gallery that all the time. Like, I don't really care about that stuff. Like, my joy is in the making of the work. What you see when you go to the gallery, that's the residue of my joy. Because by the time you residue, I done moved on to something else. Because my joy is
Yep.
literally in the absolute love of making things and making work. and telling stories. Because at the end of the day, I think because of journalism, on the foundation of things, I'm just a storyteller. I just choose to tell stories in different ways and different platforms. I'm still bringing the journalism to you, but I'm just doing it with a carving.
Right.
I'm telling you the story
Right.
of my family. It's still the same thing. I'm just showing it to you different.
Wow, man. Like I said, I knew you was gonna do this for me today, man. My ratings probably just went through the roof, man. Hope I'm telling you, I love it. I love it. I got to shout out to Paige because she keeps getting me great guests, man, and putting it together, dude.
Bro,
I wanted to talk to you for
I
a
mean,
minute,
this is how we normally talk when we see each other, though. So it ain't,
right?
it's, like I tell people, it's really, if you were sitting, somewhere you saw it, this is what we would be talking about, because, I don't know but one way to be Ruck.
That's what's
You know
right.
one way to be Jason. It's like, and I love, and I think that's part of me being from the South is like just kind of that old, sitting on the porch telling story type person. I always tell people I love to have people lean in, whether it's to the art or to the story. When I'm telling you a story, I want you to lean forward so you can, that way I know you really paying attention, you really hearing it. And I think I grew up in that type of oral history where I was leaning in to my grandparents and great grandparents and listening to them talk and tell stories and giving me that knowledge because it's like, man, that was, neither one of my grandparents finished school, but I thought my great grandparents, but I thought they was the smartest people I ever knew.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
As far as everything, I remember my great grandfather went from being a sharecropper to a mechanic to having his own lawn business. And this is somebody who never got a chance to go to school. And I worked for him like during high school, like in the summers, and I would go work for him and he would pay me cash at the end of the day because I was a kid. I didn't get a check like everybody else. And bruh, I would spend the money like that day. And I remember one day we were driving home and he gave me like the $30 or what, and I was like, drop me off at the store. I'm gonna walk home. And he was like, dang, boy, sleep with the money one night. Like at least know it.
Right. Right.
It's
I
like, bro,
love it.
at least know what it's like to have something, Like,
And to this
you
day, we
know,
like that, man. We get some money, we already just spend it mentally. You know what I'm saying?
bro,
That is a true statement that we need to still pass on to our people, man.
I'm
You know what
buying
I'm
comic
saying?
books and Mad magazines and I'm spending the money and buying Subway or whatever. And
Yo,
those
wait
are
a
the
minute,
things that
wait.
influence my art.
So I gotta ask you before you go, okay? Because we've been on here almost an hour. Two questions. You're a Marvel head, man. You love Marvel.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, do you like WandaVision? I'm into it right now. Have you been watching it? Are you
Yeah,
feeling the direction that Marvel's going in?
I think it got dope about episode 3 because the first couple
Okay.
episodes it's like, man, this is like Laverne Shirley or something, or like the
Right.
Honeymooners. Like, what am I watching? And then when it flips, you're like, oh, this is amazing.
Yes.
And it's like,
Yes.
it's funny because like Scarlet Witch has always been one of those characters. Like, I always felt like they kind of devalued her in the Avengers movies. I'm like, bro, she could have almost beat Thanos by herself. Like, if you really like
Mm-hmm.
check out the powers, but they made her
Mm-hmm.
secondary because I was like, man, she could have really just took out almost anybody.
For
She's
sure.
similar to like Jean Grey in that way with that level of power. It's
Mm-hmm.
like they don't always give her credit for that level of power. So
Okay.
I'm definitely digging that and waiting on the Winter Soldier Falcon movie that's coming out. Well,
Mm-hmm.
now Captain
Mm-hmm.
America, since Sam has assumed that role in the movie.
Yep. Okay, because I knew I had to holler at you, like I said, because people been going back and forth about the Wanda, but I'm a Marvel head, man, and I knew I had to get the
Yeah,
lowdown,
we
and we're
got a
going to have
lot
to
of
talk
me and
off
you got a lot
camera
of the
about.
same.
Oh,
Yeah, me and
yeah,
you got a
because
lot of the same interests.
the next question is, okay, what is your favorite sneaker of all time? I'm gonna put you on the spot, man, because I could ask you what you bought last and all that, but we grown now. We can't buy like we used to, man. But back when I met you back in the day, we was buying sneakers like you couldn't believe.
Bro, I had to
But
chill out, man, because it became like an obsession for years and years and
yeah,
years. And especially when you
okay,
dead stocking too, you just got boxes everywhere. Um, bro, that's
greatest of all
interesting.
time.
Dude, I still think my favorite shoe of all time is a Jordan 11 Concord.
Okay. Okay, I'll
But
accept that
but
answer. I'll accept that.
the last shoe I bought was a Nike Kill Shot. So
Okay,
those are
so
like OG. You can wear them with anything. That's like J. Crew preppy.
are you getting into the new technology stuff?
Bro, I'm trying, man, but it's just like, like I don't know if I dig all that stuff or not. Dude, I treat sneakers like I treat hip hop, bro. It's like people be like, you heard this? And I'm like, bro, I'm still listening to Dilla and Biggie.
Yeah, it's hard to move on sometimes, man. It is hard to move on
I'm
sometimes.
still listening to Stakes. I'm still listening to Stakes is High, bro. It's like I read about the young rappers. I'm like, I have no clue who any of these people are.
Dude,
Like not one.
I let go of that a long time ago. When I
Me
started
too.
saying these kids, and then like the skinny jean thing, I was like, once it started going left, I was like, I'm good with that, man. But I have accepted the new technology in sneakers these days, man. So I'm gonna try to get you something. I'm gonna give you some info on something new that you should get
I
into.
I think D Smoke might be the only new rapper I listen to occasionally because he just kind of remind me of Kendrick in some ways, and Kendrick remind me of just I was a backpacker, just all of that type of vibe, going to school, listening to Slum Village, walking to College Yard. It's funny before I let you go because it's like living in North Carolina and me and all my friends was like hip hop heads and backpackers. We all thought Dilla was Batan before we knew because Dilla gave off this conscious vibe, you know, the like his music had that type of tribe. It was tribe, it was De
Right,
La.
right.
But Dilla looked like a Detroit dude. We always thought, man, it's got to be the dude with the turban.
No,
Not him.
no, no,
Not
no,
him,
no,
bro.
no.
It was like when the day I found out, I'm like, it's the dude with the gold chains.
It's the
It's not the
Detroitist
dude
of
with the
cats,
turban.
bro.
It's the Detroit dude. And it's like now that I've been in Detroit for like 20 years, it's like I understand it now. It's like it's that dude.
Right,
It's the dude with
brother.
the top tens and the gold chain.
That's right, the D boy. That's what's up, bro. So before I let you go, where can we can we get your art anywhere? I mean, you hot, man. I mean, can we purchase it anywhere or the prints anywhere? How can we support you? And where can we just keep up with what you're doing?
Bro, no prints anywhere. The next opportunity is the March 26th show in Contemporary Gallery up from the Red Clay. And Rucker Arts is my Instagram, and RashaunRucker.com is the website. Bro, I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I have said in my mind, like, it just never kind of have worked out. Like, I'm like, man, I'm gonna get Rula and Jesse one day to let me back in Murals in the Market and do one more for the career.
You coming back, baby. I'm telling you, it's not over yet, man. It's not over. We're going through some changes, but I don't know nothing. Don't say but I know it ain't over. We can't stop this energy, man. Murals in the Market was easily one of the greatest events in Detroit's history. People don't really
Man,
get the vibe that went down here, and there's no way I'm in Jesse and Rula's ear every day, like what is going down. So we will have you again, brother. Thank you for
bro,
coming on today. Everybody, my man, 50 grand, Rashaun Rucker. I knew this was going to be awesome because, like I said, I just haven't talked to you in a while, man. So, like, it's just like you and me kicking it.
no doubt. Dude, I
When we
love
come
you,
out of
bro.
this,
I
man,
appreciate you, Jason.
no,
Let's,
brother, I appreciate and love you more, dude. When we come out of this, we going to kick it, man, and we going to laugh,
yes.
and we going to smile and do all that, brother. Thank you for coming out today.
Hey, bro, I appreciate you and all of y'all. Thank everybody for listening. Thank you, Murals in the Market. Thank you, Detroit.
All right, brother. I'll talk to you soon.
Peace.
Man, that is it. There you go. Yeah, doing our job, doing what we do. I saw the messages. At least 3 to 4 people said they needed this conversation to happen today. Thank you for the love. We love giving it to you like that, man. You need it just like I need it. All right, trust me. There's days that it ain't easy. Like I said, it's cold outside. I got to go right from this job to the next job. Sometimes it's tough, but then you run across people like Rashaun Rucker in situations like this and situations like all of this beautiful, support that you have around me and around us, man. So thank you all for coming out every Saturday. Please spread the word that we do this every Saturday at 11 a.m. Murals in the Market Live. Not only do we do this, but guess what? I do tours of Murals in the Market. And don't say shit to me about it being cold because I actually did a tour last week. So if you would like to book a walking tour of Murals in the Market, where I can talk about all the art that is in the market and all the incredible information that I've learned doing Murals in the Market live and getting a deeper understanding and building deeper friendships with all these artists, please book a tour on ridedetroit.com. This will live on the Murals in the Market Instagram after we're done. And in the future, if you want to check out any of the stuff that I do, it is on the Ride Detroit YouTube channel. Please go watch and subscribe. All my Murals in the Market interviews and all my Ride Detroit stuff is there. Thank you again for coming out. If you want to support any other artists, you can also go to muralsinthemarket.com, onetimesrun.com, and I keep saying it every week, Spotlight Detroit is coming. If you do not follow it, go check out Spotlight Detroit on Instagram so you can get up what's going down with everything and the new spot that's about to open because it's about to be jumping. I will talk to you guys next week. Thank you for coming out.